The notice on her front door hit me before her words did. It was stapled right at eye level so the whole street could see it. Big black letters, red stamp, bank logo. The kind of paper that tells you a computer has decided your life is over. Rain was coming down hard and cold. It slid off the edge of the porch roof and ran in little rivers down the siding. I stood there with my toolbox in one hand and a bundle of trim in the other, trying to keep my temper steady. Then I looked at her. Alina Mercer was barefoot on the wet porch boards. One hand was braced on the doorframe. The other rested low on her belly, like she was trying to protect the baby from the weather and the world at the same time. Her hair was loose and damp. Her face was too pale. She was not crying. Not yet. She looked like someone who had been hit from behind and was still deciding if she could stay on her feet. The driveway beside us was empty. "He took the car," she said. Her voice was so soft I had to lean closer to hear it over the rain. "And the savings account." My jaw tightened. I knew who she meant. "Derek," I said. She gave one tiny nod, like her head hurt too much to move more. "He said he's not ready," she added. "He said I trapped him." Her throat moved like she had swallowed broken glass. She let out one short breath. "Me," she said. "At 36. I set the trim down. The wood hit the porch with a dull thud. I kept my toolbox in my hand so I would not reach for her without asking. "You okay?" I asked. It was a stupid question, but it was the only one I had. "No," she said. Just that. One word. No drama, no story, only truth. She straightened her shoulders a little, like she was standing in front of a room full of loud sixth graders again. I had seen her like that. She was the principal who could quiet a cafeteria with a look and shut down a rude school board member with 2 sentences. Right now, she looked like a building with a crack in the foundation. "I can't pay you for the rest of the renovation," she said, still looking at the notice and not at me. "I am going to have to sell before the bank takes it." Quote, Rain blew sideways under the porch roof and hit her bare shoulder. She flinched and then forced herself not to react. I stepped closer, close enough that my body blocked most of the wind. "You have a roof that still leaks and stairs that are not safe," I said, nodding toward the house. Then I nodded at the notice. "That piece of paper does not decide anything tonight, Alina." "Knox," she said, like she was trying to remind me of something, maybe my place. "I am finishing the job," I said. "We talk about money when you are warm and dry." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue. Instead, she swallowed and turned her face away, toward the empty driveway. "He said he would be back after the meeting," she whispered. "He never came home." I saw it all in that 1 second, not just heartbreak, fear, bills, insurance, due dates, a half-finished house. A baby who did not care about who left, only about being born on time. I took my cap off, ran a hand through my hair, then put it back on. "You are not selling this place today," I said. She let out a shaky breath. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. I did not touch her. I kept my hands where she could see them. "Because you are standing out here in the rain," I said, "and nobody should be alone in a moment like this." Her eyes went bright. One tear broke loose and slid down her cheek. She wiped it away fast, like she was angry that I had seen it. "I am not asking you to save me," she said. "I am not saving you," I replied. "I am fixing a house I already started." She stared at me like she could not decide if she should be mad or relieved. "Go inside," I said. "I am getting that notice off your door before it turns to mush." She did not move right away. Then she stepped back, slow, and made space for me to reach the paper. That was the first time she let me in. The storm got worse when the sun went down. The wind picked up and got a sharp edge. It shook the trees behind the row of houses. It pushed the rain sideways and found every gap in her siding, every spot on my list marked, "Fix tomorrow." I was halfway up a ladder on the side of her house when the first big gust hit. The ladder rattled. The gutter above my head groaned. The air smelled like wet leaves and cold metal. "Knox," Alina called from the porch. "Get down." I glanced up at the roofline. Water was sliding under a loose strip of flashing. It ran along the underside like fingers reaching for the drywall. "If I do not cover that, your ceiling is going to come down," I shouted back. "You can cover it tomorrow," she called. "You cannot fix a broken neck." She said it like a principal talking to a kid doing something stupid. It worked. I climbed down faster than I had climbed up. As my boots hit the ground, the porch light flickered and went out. The whole street went black. The storm swallowed all the edges. Alina stood in the doorway with a flashlight in her hand and a cardigan wrapped around her. Her bare legs showed under the sweater. Her eyes were too wide. "Power's out," she said. "County says crews will not come until morning. Lines are down." "Okay," I said. "Do you have candles?" She pointed at a kitchen drawer without thinking, like she was back in her own element for a second, giving instructions. I walked the house, checking windows and doors. The sunroom frame flexed under my palm. The back step groaned. I marked what I could, fixed what I had time to fix, and told myself I would deal with the rest before the next storm. When I came back to the kitchen, she had 4 candles stuck in a pot on the stove. The flame painted soft light over her tired face. "You should not be on your feet this long," I said. "If I sit, my back locks," she answered. I found a can of soup in her pantry. "Eat," I said. "I am not hungry," she replied. "You are pregnant," I said. "That is not how it works." She shot me a look, sharp and tired at the same time. Then she exhaled. "Fine," she said. "I will eat." Another gust hit the house. A sharp crack came from the sunroom, wood on wood. Alina flinched. I grabbed my flashlight. "Stay here," I said. "I will be right back." The sunroom window frame had shifted. Water was already dripping onto the floor in a thin line. I shoved a towel under it with my boot, pressed my shoulder against the frame, and drove in a screw with my drill until the wood sat tight again. I did not swear. I did not shout. I just worked. Behind me, the beam of her flashlight slid over the wall. "You are shaking," she said. "It is cold," I replied. She came closer and aimed the light where I needed it, not at my face. When the frame held, I stepped back. "Your couch is in the living room," she said, still in that clipped principal voice. "You can sleep there." "I have my own place," I said. "I did not ask where your place is," she said. "I said you can sleep here." Her fingers squeezed the flashlight handle. She was not asking for company. She was asking not to be alone in a house that had just tried to fall apart around her. "Okay," I said. Morning came gray and slow. The storm moved on. Branches were down in the yard. The roof still needed work. I still had a job. But as I watched Alina standing there in the kitchen with her mug of coffee and one hand on her belly, I understood something. The house was not the only thing that needed a plan. And I had just promised her in my own way that she was not going to face any of it by herself. The first time I felt her baby kick, I forgot how to breathe. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind that makes you think the worst is over, even when it isn't. Outside, the street was muddy from melted storm snow. Inside, the house smelled like sawdust, coffee, and fresh paint. I was in the nursery, kneeling on the floor, putting together the crib she had ordered months ago. The box still had Derek's name on the shipping label. I tried not to look at it. Alina stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame, the other on her lower back. She watched me line up the bolts and tighten them with the little Allen key that always hurts your hand. "You build these a lot?" she asked. "Cribs? No," I said. "Tables, decks, roofs. Cribs are new." "You seem sure," she said. "I read instructions," I replied. "Helps." She huffed quietly. The sound almost turned into a laugh, but she stopped it halfway. That was how she was now. Every soft thing got cut in half. I set the last rail in place and tightened the final bolt. Then I leaned my weight on the side of the crib and pushed hard. It did not move. "Okay," I said. "This part of the world is solid." Alina stepped inside the room and walked over slowly. The paint on the walls was a soft blue. Not baby blue, just calm. She ran her fingers along the top rail of the crib, slow and careful, like she was touching something that might vanish. "It's real now," she whispered. "It was real before," I said. "Now it's ready." Her hand went from the rail to her belly. She rubbed a small circle, thumb moving over the fabric of her shirt. "He's kicking," she said. "Because you are finally sitting down," I answered. "No," she said, and now she let the smile out just a little. "Because you're here." I did not joke. I did not look away. I just reached out my hand and waited. She hesitated, then took it and guided my palm to the side of her stomach. We stood there in silence. For a second, nothing happened. Then, there it was. A sharp tap against my hand from the inside. Another one right after, stronger than I expected. I froze. "Okay," I said, but it came out rough. Her eyes watched my face instead of her belly. She was studying me like she was trying to decide if she was allowed to trust what she saw. "That weirds some people out," she said quietly. "It doesn't weird me out," I replied. "It just makes some other things feel smaller." She held my hand there a second longer, then slowly let go. That night, I checked every door and window twice. The storm had passed, but habit stays. I tested the locks, the latches, the new trim. Alina stood in the kitchen, heating a towel in the dryer. "Your hands are cracked," she said when I came back in. "They look like they hurt." "Work does that," I said. She walked over with the warm towel folded in her hands. Steam curled up from it. She pressed it into my palms before I could argue. The heat sank into the raw skin and made my fingers sigh. "Thank you," I said. "You checked that back door 3 times, she replied. "Habit," I said. "From what?" she asked. I rested my hands on the towel and looked at her. Her hair was pulled back. There were tired lines around her eyes, but her spine was straight. "From growing up in a house where doors did not always stay locked," I said. "You learn to check." She studied me for a second, then nodded. No questions, no fake comfort, just respect. The days fell into a pattern after that. Morning. I was up early, fixing what the storm had tried to break. Roof, gutters, siding. The air smelled like damp earth and cold air. My arms burned by noon in a good way. Alina moved slower, but she moved. She made calls. She fought with the bank. She talked to her union. She kept the school district from taking everything from her. I heard pieces of her voice through half-open doors. 10 days, she told me one afternoon, holding up a printed email. They gave me 10 days if I can show active renovation and a payment plan. "You did that," I said. "I did that with your invoice," she said. Do not leave that part out. Afternoon, I did stairs, railings, sunroom trim. She sorted baby clothes from boxes friends had dropped off in grocery bags. Tiny onesies in soft colors, washed and folded. She stood over them sometimes with a look on her face I did not have a word for. At night I slept on the couch near the front door. I told myself it was to listen for branches or broken windows. It was also because the idea of her waking up scared in a quiet house and calling out to nobody sat wrong in my chest. On the second night I woke to the sound of the kettle clicking off and soft footsteps. Alina stood in the doorway with a glass of water in one hand and a small blanket in the other. "You snore," she said. "No, I don't," I replied. "You do," she said. "But you also stop and listen every time the house creaks." She walked over, put the blanket over me like it was nothing, then turned away. I caught her wrist gently. "You okay?" I asked. She looked back at me. In the dim light, her eyes were dark and focused. "I am," she said. "Because you are here." She left it at that and went back to bed. It went on like that, small things that were not small at all. I fixed the loose stair tread so she would not slip when she was half asleep at 3 in the morning. She put cinnamon in my coffee because I said once that it helped me think. I made sure the porch light always worked. She always checked that I had eaten something before sundown. We moved around each other like people who had been doing it longer than a week. That scared her. I felt it before she said anything. The more solid the house became, the more she pressed her lips together like she was holding back words. One evening, I was outside cutting trim. The sun was low. The sawdust floated in the light like fine dust. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Ryland. "Heads up," he said. "Just saw an Audi I know you hate turn down your street." I did not have to ask which one. I shut off the saw, wiped my hands on my jeans, and walked to the front yard. The Audi was already in the driveway when I stepped out. Clean, shiny, paid for with money that used to be hers too. Derek leaned against the hood in a pressed shirt and an expensive jacket. There was a man beside him in a suit, holding a clipboard. The lawyer. Alina was on the porch, one hand on her belly, one on the railing, face gone pale again but eyes hard. My pulse kicked up. The air between us changed. Part of me wanted to drag Derek off the porch by his collar. The other part knew this was not my fight to start. So I walked forward and took my place on her side of the steps. Whatever was about to happen, I was not watching it from the street. Derek's smile was the kind that looks good in photos and terrible in real life. "Alina," he said, like he was the one doing her a favor by being there. "You look tired." She didn't move from the porch, she just tightened her grip on the railing. "I told you not to come back," she said. He shrugged. "You told me a lot of things. None of them changed the numbers." The man beside him shifted his clipboard. "Ms. Mercer, I am here on behalf of Mr. Collins to present a settlement proposal." "Settlement for what?" I asked. The lawyer looked at me like I was an extra chair. "This is between Mr. Collins and Ms. Mercer," he said. "No," Alina said, "it is not." Her voice was calm, but I saw the muscle jump in her jaw. Derek rolled his eyes. "We both know you can't afford this place on a principal's salary," he said. "Not in the district you work in. Not with a baby. I am trying to give you a clean way out." "A clean way for who?" she asked. "For both of us," he said, like it was obvious. "You sign this non-disclosure. The bank gets paid out of the sale. I cover the rest. We move forward without drama." Non-disclosure. There it was. "You want her to stay quiet about you leaving?" I said. Derek finally looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You must be the handyman," he said. "You are not part of this." "I am part of this house," I said, "and this porch. So if you want to stand on it and talk, you can talk to both of us." His mouth thinned. Alina took a slow breath. "What happens if I don't sign?" she asked. The lawyer cleared his throat. "There will be foreclosure," he said. "Additional legal action may be pursued regarding the funds advanced to you as a couple." Quote, "She did not empty that account," I said. The lawyer shifted. "The account was joint," he said carefully. "Liability is shared." Derek lifted his hands. "Look, you always said you did not want to fight," he told Alina. "You wanted calm. You wanted peace. This is how you get it." He stepped up one stair. I stepped down one. We met eyes on the same level. "Back up," I said. He laughed once. "Or what?" he said. "Or you fall off my porch while I am standing still." I said. "Either way, you are leaving." Alina did not tell me to stop. She watched him. He watched her. "You are choosing this," he said to her, anger starting to show. "You are choosing him and this little broken house over an actual life." She lifted her chin. "I am choosing myself," she said. "And our child." "Our," he repeated, and that one word came out ugly. "You think a judge will see it that way when I show texts where you admitted this was not planned." The color drained from her face, but she did not look away. "You walked out," she said. "You took the car and the money. You left me a notice on the door and a voicemail. Show the judge that too." The lawyer shifted again. "Perhaps we can take a different tone," he said quickly. "No," Derek snapped. "She needs to understand what this looks like." He jabbed a finger toward me. "Some contractor sleeping on your couch while you are pregnant," he said. "Do you think the school board will ignore that?" Alina flinched, then forced her shoulders back. "My board cares about my work," she said. "Your board cares about parents," he shot back. "Parents who talk." He let that hang in the air. He knew where to hit. I could see it. He had known her long enough to know every weak spot, and he was not ashamed to press all of them. The lawyer looked down at his clipboard like he did not want to be there. Derek stepped back and tugged his suit jacket straight. "You have a week," he said. "Then the offer goes away." He snapped his fingers once. The lawyer handed Alina a thick envelope. She did not take it. "I did." The lawyer blinked. I tucked it under my arm. "Conversation is over," I said. Derek stared at me like he could burn a hole through my chest. Then he turned, walked to the car, and drove away. The Audi's taillights disappeared at the end of the street. The quiet that followed was heavy. Alina's hand slid from the railing. She sank into the porch chair like her knees did not trust her. I set the envelope on the little table and sat on the step in front of her. She stared at the street. Her hand came down, slow, and found the curve of her belly. "He is right," she said softly. "No, he is not," I said. She shook her head once. "Not about you," she said. "About them." "Them who?" I asked. "The board. The parents." "This town," she said. "They will not wait for facts. They will not care what was on the voicemail. They will see a pregnant principal with a contractor in her house, and they will write their own story." She looked down at me. Her eyes were wet, but no tears fell. "Do not say it does not matter," she said, "because for me, it does." I did not say it. I knew she was right. People love stories where they pick the villain fast and never change their mind. "Okay," I said, "so we planned for that." She frowned. "How?" she asked. "We decide what we can control," I said. "You can control your house, your baby, your own choices. You cannot control what they whisper in the grocery store." "That is easy for you to say," she said. "You do not have to stand in front of a room full of parents and pretend it does not hurt." "I can take the hit," I said. She stared at me like I had grown another head. "No," she said quietly. "Yes," I replied. Her mouth trembled. "You do not know what that means," she said. "I do," I answered. She leaned forward, hands gripping the arms of the chair. "You think you do," she said. "You think you can just stand there and take it and walk away. But you have a business with your name on it. If they decide you are the villain too, you lose work, you lose income, you lose your whole life in this town because I made one mistake with one man." "You did not make a mistake," I said, sharper than I meant to. She laughed once. No humor in it. "Look around, Knox," she said. "The foreclosure notice, the empty driveway, the settlement envelope, the fact that I have to count overtime hours to see if I can keep the lights on. I love this child already, but do not tell me I did not make one hell of a mistake with his father." She pushed herself up out of the chair. Her belly made the move clumsy, but she did it anyway. She stood over me. Her eyes were fierce. "Get out," she said. It was not a shout. It was soft, but it landed like a command. I stayed sitting. "No," I said. Her jaw clenched. "Please," she added. That word hit harder than if she had shoved me. "Why?" I asked. She sucked in air like it hurt. "Because I cannot watch you get dragged down with me," she said. "I can barely stand what Derek has already done. If I have to watch them come for you too because you stayed, I will break." Her hand shook as she lifted it and pressed her palm flat against my chest. Her fingers spread over my shirt, right over my heart. "You think you are helping," she whispered. "You think you are protecting me. But if you stay when this gets ugly, I do not know how I will ever stop feeling guilty." My throat burned. "You are scared I will hate you," I said. "Yes," she said. "I am terrified you will wake up one day and regret every hour you spent in this house." I stood up slowly, letting her hand slide down until it dropped to her side. We were close enough that I could see every freckle on her face. "I am not going to hate you," I said. "Maybe not now," she said. "But later, when the phone stops ringing, when people stop hiring you, when someone spits the word homewrecker at me in a parking lot and your name is attached to the story." She sucked in another breath. "I cannot ask you to stay for that," she said. "So I am not asking." She squared her shoulders like she was facing a school board. "I am telling you," she said, voice shaking and strong at the same time. "Go." The part of me that wanted to fight every broken thing in her life screamed to stay. The part of me that respected her more than I wanted to fix her knew the answer. Consent was not just about touch. It was also about presence. She was saying no, so I listened. "Okay," I said quietly. Her eyes closed for half a second. When she opened them, they were glassy. I picked up my toolbox. I left the trim stacked in the hall. At the door, I paused and looked back once. She stood in the middle of the living room, one hand on her belly, the other covering her mouth like she was holding back the sound of something breaking. I am not doing this because I am scared of them, I said. She did not answer. I am doing this because you asked me to, I added. Her eyes met mine. That was all. I stepped out into the cold. The door shut behind me with a soft click. The house lights glowed in the early dark, warm and far away. Snow started to fall again, thin and slow. I walked down the path with my toolbox, feeling every step like I was walking away from something I wanted more than my own comfort. 3 days passed. I did not go back. I fixed other houses and did not look at hers when I drove by. At night, I lay on my back in my small rental and stared at the ceiling. Every creak made me think of her porch. Every gust of wind made me think of her windows. On the 3rd day, the sky turned the heavy gray I knew too well. The radio said late storm. I looked out the window and watched the first hard flakes hit the street. That was when my phone rang. It was Ryland. "You listening to the scanner?" he asked. "No," I said. "You should," he replied. "Ambulance is stuck at the top of your old road. Downed line. They are trying to get to a woman in labor at 42 Seaver Lane." My heart slammed. Alina's address. I did not think about it. I just moved. I grabbed my keys, my coat, and was in my truck before my brain caught up. The snow was already coming in hard, fat, wet flakes that stuck to the windshield and smeared under the wipers. The road up to her street was half slush, half ice. My tires slid more than once. I kept both hands tight on the wheel and my eyes fixed on the faint lines of the lane. When I turned onto Seaver, the world went white. A line was down across the road, sagging low and sparking weak in the wind. The ambulance sat on the other side, lights flashing red and white against the snow. They could not move forward. They could not go around. 2 paramedics were out in the road on the far side, talking into radios, helpless. I pulled my truck to the shoulder, killed the engine, and climbed out into the storm. The wind hit me in the face like a slap. Snow stung my eyes and went down the back of my collar. One of the paramedics yelled across the gap. "We cannot get through!" he shouted. "We are waiting on power to kill the line." "How far to 42?" I yelled back. "2 houses down," he called. "She is alone." That was all I needed. I ran. The snow was up to my shins and climbing. My boots sank and dragged. My lungs burned from the cold air as I pushed up the street. Alina's porch light was on, a weak yellow square in the white. Her front door was open a few inches, the storm shoving snow inside. Her scream cut through the wind and hit me in the chest. I took the steps in 2 strides and shouldered the door open. She was on the living room floor on her knees, one hand clamped on the edge of the couch, the other pressed under her belly. Her hair stuck to her face, sweat soaked the collar of her shirt. Her eyes were wild with pain and fear. When she saw me, something in her broke and then caught again. "No!" she gasped. "Knox, you should not be here." "I am here," I said, moving fast but steady. "You are not doing this alone." Another contraction hit and ripped that thought right out of her. She doubled forward, a sound tearing out of her that made my whole body tense. I dropped to my knees beside her. "Where is your phone?" I asked. She tried to point, hand shaking toward the kitchen. I grabbed it off the counter, hit emergency, and put it on speaker on the coffee table. The dispatcher picked up fast. I gave the address, told them about the downed line and the blocked ambulance. My voice stayed low and flat. I needed them calm on the other end. I needed her calm in my hands. "Okay, sir, you will have to help her until we can reach you," the dispatcher said. "Is this her first baby?" Quote, "Yes," I answered. Alina's fingers dug into my forearm, nails biting through cotton. "I cannot," she gasped. "I cannot do this." "You can," I said, "but you are not doing it alone. Look at me." Her eyes found mine. "Nothing happens in this room that you do not agree to," I said. "You tell me what you need. You tell me when to stop. You tell me where it hurts. I do nothing without you telling me. Understand?" Her jaw clenched. She nodded once. The dispatcher started giving instructions. Towels. Hot water if I could get it. Check how far along she was. I moved fast, but I kept a hand on her the whole time, at her shoulder, at her back, where she could feel I was still there. You will feel pressure, the dispatcher said. Do not push until she says she needs to. Another contraction hit, Alina cried out, voice breaking. Her hand clawed at the rug and then found my wrist again. Breathe, I said. In through your nose, out through your mouth, I am right here. She tried. She did not do it perfect. It did not matter. She stayed with it. Time warped. The storm outside roared against the house. The windows shook. The lights flickered once and then steadied. The whole world was the living room, the couch, the towels, her grip on my arm, the dispatcher's steady voice, and the hard work of her body. When the baby crowned, the panic hit her again. It hurts, she sobbed. Knox, it hurts, I cannot. You are doing it, I said. You are doing it right now. One more, just one more. You tell me when you are ready. She shook her head, then grabbed my shirt and pulled, pulling power from somewhere deep. Now, she gritted. Push, I said. She pushed with everything left in her. The cry that came out of her was raw and honest. It cut right through the sound of the wind. Then there was a slick rush and a new sound in the room. A thin, furious cry that did not sound like her or me or the storm. I caught the baby with both hands. She was small and red and wild with life, fists flailing. My hands shook, but I held her steady, checked what I could like the dispatcher told me. It is a girl, I said, voice rough. Alina's head fell back against the couch. Tears streamed out of her eyes and into her hair. A girl, she whispered. I wrapped the baby in a clean towel, tight but gentle, and placed her against Alina's chest. The baby's cry softened as soon as she found warmth and heartbeat. Her tiny mouth worked against the fabric. Alina's arms came up around her like instinct. She held that child like she had been ready for her for years. For a moment, everything went quiet inside me. The storm was still there. The dispatcher was still talking, but my focus narrowed to that picture. Alina on the floor, hair messy, eyes swollen from effort. A newborn girl held firm against her, both of them breathing. She looked up at me. I thought you were gone, she whispered. My throat burned. I was, I said. Then I remembered what I told you on the porch. What? She asked. You are not doing this alone. Her fingers tightened on the baby and then reached for my hand. Do not, she started, voice cracking. Do not leave again. I will not, I said. 10 minutes later, the paramedics finally made it around the line and up the drive. They came in with their kits and their calm voices, checked Alina, checked the baby, praised her for what she had done. You did the hard part, one of them told her. She did all of it, I said. They loaded her onto a stretcher with the baby still tucked against her. As they wheeled her toward the door, she reached for me again. You are coming, she said. Yeah, I answered. I am coming. I followed the ambulance in my truck, hazard lights blinking in the snow. At the hospital, they took her into a room and took the baby to be weighed and checked. I washed my hands at a sink until the water ran cold and the smell of birth and metal and sawdust faded. Ryland showed up with a coffee and a look that was halfway between shock and pride. You look like you went 12 rounds with a tornado, he said. I delivered a baby in a living room, I answered. He let out a low whistle. Whole town knows, he said. Scanner lit up. People saw the ambulance stuck in the line. They know who showed up on foot. Quote, I did not care about the town in that moment. I cared that the nurse finally waved me in. Alina was propped up in a bed, hair clean now, face still pale but calmer. The baby lay in a clear bassinet beside her, wrapped tight, small face soft in sleep. When Alina saw me, she did not look like she was deciding if I belonged. She held out her hand. I took it and sat. She is perfect, she said. Yeah, I agreed. Are you okay? She asked. I laughed once, low. I think I am going to feel my knees for a week, I said. But yeah, I am okay. She squeezed my fingers. They are going to talk, she said after a moment. More than they already were. Let them, I said. She searched my face like she was trying to find any crack, any sign I would run. "You still have time to change your mind," she said. "I did," I replied. She frowned. "When?" "In my truck in that parking lot," I said. "I had 3 days to decide if I wanted to stay in this story. I am still here." She blinked hard. A nurse came in with a stack of forms and words about feeding and schedules and follow-ups. We listened. We nodded. Life kept moving. 6 weeks later, her house looked different. The leaks were gone. The stairs were safe. The sunroom windows were sealed. The nursery was finished. Soft light on fresh paint and solid furniture. The smell of sawdust had faded into the warm mix of clean wood, laundry, and baby powder. I was on her porch, setting the last piece of trim into place, when Ryland walked up the steps with a paper bag from the bakery. "Mrs. Gable says congratulations," he said. "And she threw in an extra cinnamon roll because you did not die in that storm." I took the bag, the butter smell hitting my nose. Alina came out onto the porch with the baby on her hip, bundled in a soft blanket. Her hair was up. She wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, dark circles still under her eyes, but she stood straight. She watched me push the nail gun against the trim and fire the last brad into place. "There," I said. "Now it is finished." "You missed a spot," she said. I looked. "I did not," I replied. "I saved it for last." She rolled her eyes, but there was a smile hiding there. That was when Mrs. Gable herself walked down the sidewalk, scarf tight around her neck, grocery bag in one hand. Neighborhood royalty. She stopped in front of the house and looked up at us. Her eyes went from Alina's face to mine to the tiny bundle on her hip. For a second, the whole street felt like it was holding its breath. Then Mrs. Gable lifted her free hand and gave us a small, sharp nod. "Principal Mercer," she called. "Mr. Knox." "Afternoon," I said. Alina did not hide the baby. She shifted her higher on her hip so the old woman could see her better. "This must be the young lady who could not wait for the ambulance," Mrs. Gable said. "She has her own timeline," Alina replied. Mrs. Gable's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Well," she said, "she picked a stubborn father figure. That will help." She walked on without another word. Ryland coughed behind his fist. "Did she just call you a dad?" he whispered. "Shut up," I said, but I felt my face heat. Alina turned toward me. Her eyes were bright now, not from tears, from something stronger. She reached into the pocket of her hoodie and pulled out a key on a small ring. My key, the one I had been using every day. She pressed it into my palm and folded my fingers over it. "Officially," she said, "if you want it." My throat went tight. "You sure?" I asked. She did not answer with words first. She shifted the baby to her other arm, stepped closer, and kissed me on the mouth on that porch, in full view of the street. It was not careful. It was not timid. It was clear. When she pulled back, Mrs. Gable was halfway down the block, looking back over her shoulder with raised eyebrows. Then, to my absolute shock, the old woman smiled. A real one. "About time," she called. Ryland laughed, not even trying to hide it. Alina rested her forehead against my shoulder for a second, tired and steady. The baby made a soft sound and nuzzled into her chest. I slid my free arm around Alina's waist, careful of the baby, and held them both close. The key dug into my palm, solid and real. "I asked you once," I said quietly, so only she could hear, "what lesson your family wanted you to learn." Quote. She tilted her head back to look at me. "Maybe it was this," she said, "that I do not have to do every hard thing alone." I nodded. "Good," I said, "because you are not." The wind moved gentle across the porch now. The house behind us stood solid. The street went on with its life. And I stayed right where I wanted to be,